What's up, guys? It's Timmy Boxing, and today I'm going to be listing the top knockout and fight of the year for 2020, in my opinion. And first of all, before I get into the video, I just want to thank you guys in getting me to 200 subscribers. I know it might not be that much, but I just really appreciate the fact that you guys are liking my videos, watching them full and through, and subscribing to my channel. But now to get into the video, as most of you guys know, throughout each month of the year, I've been posting the knockout and fight of the month for each month respectively. But just to get into that, I'm just going to list every single fight and knockout for each month. So first of all, starting in January, for the knockout of the month, I picked Michael Seals versus Eleider Alvarez. For the fight of the month, I picked MJ Akhmadaliev versus Danny Roman. And for February, I picked Charles Martin versus Gerald Washington for the KO of the month. And for fight of the month, I picked Julio Cesar Martinez versus Jay Harris. And for March, I picked Robert Helenius versus Adam Kovnatsky for the KO of the month. And I just wanted to mix it up a little by picking Frank Sanchez versus Joey DeWeco for the fight of the month, even though it was a really dominant performance by Frank Sanchez. And then, obviously, because of the pandemic, we didn't have boxing in April and May, but they made a strong comeback in June where Joshua Franco took on Andrew Maloney, and that was the fight of the month, in my opinion, for that respective month. And the KO of the month, I picked Gustavo Lampina versus Sergio Sanchez. That was an excellent uppercut knockout. And for July, for the fight and knockout of the month, I picked Felix Verdejo versus Will Madera. For August, I picked Alexander Povetkin versus Dillian White, which was an excellent knockout for the KO of the month. And for fight of the month in August, I picked Victor Postal versus Jose Carlos Ramirez. And for September, I picked the Charlo brothers, both getting their wins there. Fight of the month, I picked Sergey Deverenchenko versus Jermall Charlo. And for knockout of the month, I picked Jason Rosario versus Jermell Charlo. And for October, for the KO of the month, I picked Gervonta Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz. And for fight of the month, as most of you guys know, I picked Jose Zepeda versus Ivan Baranchyk. And for November, I picked Joe Joyce versus Daniel Dubois for fight of the month. And for knockout of the month, I picked Terrence Crawford versus Kell Brook. And for finally December, I picked Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev for knockout of the month. And for fight of the month, I picked Masayoshi Nakatani versus Felix Verdejo. And first of all, some honorable mentions will be Kalia 5 versus Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez for KO of the month for February. Also, Ryan Garcia versus Francisco Fonseca was a very good knockout. And for December, an honorable mention is Frank Sanchez versus Julian Fernandez, which was a very good knockout, and I was debating on picking that one instead of the Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev KO. But in my opinion, I'm going to have to narrow it down to Dillian White versus Alexander Povetkin and Gervonta Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz for the KO of the year. And for fight of the year, I'm going to have to narrow it down to Zepeda versus Baranchyk, as well as Nakatani versus Verdejo, and Akhmadaliev versus Roman, as well as Martinez versus Harris. Those were all great fights, and in my opinion, they definitely deserve fight of the year. But for fight of the year, I'm going to be picking 100% Baranchyk versus Zepeda. I know that the fights between Akhmadaliev and Roman, they didn't have any knockdowns at all, but it was just a back-and-forth action fight. And between Martinez and Harris, there was one knockdown with a body shot from Martinez, but it was a very competitive and very good fight as well. As well as for the Nakatani versus Verdejo fight, that was just a plain war. It was an excellent fight, and they both traded 2 knockdowns, I believe so, and ultimately Nakatani got the finish late in the fight. But for KO of the year, many people are debating on this. Is it Davis versus Santa Cruz, or is it White versus Povetkin? In my opinion, both of them were excellent uppercut knockouts, but I'm going to have to give it to Povetkin versus White for the knockout of the year. I know that Leo Santa Cruz knockout was pitch perfect, but in my opinion, just the sheer upset that it was that Povetkin knocked out White like that, because Povetkin was coming off getting dropped twice in the previous round, then just came in there and blasted White with that beautiful uppercut that sent him out cold and stiff when he was going down. And as I said before, the fight of the year is Zepeda versus Baranchyk, where they traded, I believe, a total of 5 knockdowns throughout the whole fight. And each round in that fight had dominant action from both fighters, and they each scored knockdowns, respectively, in those rounds. So overall, the fight of the year is Ivan Baranchyk versus Jose Zepeda, where they traded 5 knockdowns, and it ended in, I believe, the 5th round. And the knockout of the year, I picked Dillian White versus Alexander Povetkin, which ended in a 5th round beautiful uppercut knockout for Alexander Povetkin. And yeah, that's really it. I'm gonna be boxing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.